This news is so bullish that I'm on the verge of selling my house, the clothes off of my back, and even my own human-making goo just so that I can buy more Bitcoin. This is absolutely bananas. So as we look at the price of Bitcoin today, you can see this is a daily chart. On the daily chart, we're right at about, again, if we close where we are right here, we would be basically closing the highest daily close that Bitcoin has ever closed. This is the highest levels, these past few weeks is the highest levels Bitcoin has ever been. And after most recently coming off the 21-day moving average, I think it's fair to say the thesis for Bitcoin pumping much higher than we currently are is very valid. And I also think that $100,000 per Bitcoin is quite literally the starting point of this next wave up, this next leg up. This is where things get big. So to start off, the 8th largest economy in the world now has a live bill to build a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Dennis Porter highlighting what he helped accomplish, that the state of Texas has filed a bill to officially establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. This is quite literally extremely big. And a new report from BlackRock, this was absolutely mind-numbing today, mind-blowing. A new report from BlackRock today recommending a 1 to 2% exposure to the Bitcoin ETFs. First time they've actually ever given a number. And they most likely put this out because they had so much incoming on the question of how much. Now, what does this mean? What does that actually translate to? So we see here with BlackRock recommending a 2% Bitcoin in your portfolio, a lot of investment advisors and wealth managers have been waiting for this moment to feel safe recommending Bitcoin to their clients. This is, as Fred highlights here, Fred saying he recommends 20%. Well, let's just say in my non-financial advising role, I also recommend 200%. Forget 20%. I recommend 200%. But you also see, what does this mean? So with BlackRock putting out this recommendation of officially a 2% allocation based on their assets under management, it accounts for an ejection of about 220 billion, far more than that is currently in the BlackRock ETF, and a further injection of this 166 billion at our 118 bull market multiple would increase the market cap to $20 trillion. Or about parity with gold at about 900, right under $1 million per Bitcoin. And this is a 2% allocation. Do you understand this? It's so first of all, yes, it being official is a wildly bullish thing, but the bigger story here is that you understand a 2% allocation. 2%, 2% is not that much. I mean, for example, if you hired me to come clean your toilets and 3 hours went by and you checked in on me and you were like, what percent done are you? And I said 2%, you'd be like, what have you been doing for the past 3 hours? You know what I mean? I mean, that would be nuts. If I only cleaned 2% of the toilet in 3 hours, like what would I be doing? Like, that's crazy. I should probably clean more of it. But the point is 2% is not that much. But 2% allocation would be about $1 million Bitcoin. So, this gets said a lot, but we're truly pretty early. That's the easiest way to put this. As well, with On-Chain College highlighting on X, Bitcoin miners' net position is changing and why this is a big deal. Basically, miners are diamond handing Bitcoin since they basically don't have to sell as much to just cover their operations now. They're still selling, but are also holding a lot of it. And with them now having access to public funding, the game is changing. We're not in the periods where mining Bitcoin and selling to cover costs to keep profit. A new wave of more consistent holding and buying is upon us because they have access, and miners have access to public funding now. Things are truly changing, and I think it's more bullish for the network. I mean, look at this. This chart is absolutely bananas. We also see that Ki Young Ju highlighting here that he spent 5 years analyzing capital flows in the market. This year was completely bananas. This year alone, about 340 billion worth of Bitcoin has been purchased so far. And he remembers talking about numbers like 100 million or even a billion in 2021. Now it's 100 billion. And very soon we're going to be talking about trillions, a trillion and trillions. And again, that's, the simplest way I think to put it is kind of like the S curve of adoption of technology. It starts slow. It starts really slow, but then it really just starts ramping up and it starts catching people off guard. I think my personal opinion, the time that's going to take from people being like, Bitcoin is a scam, which is what we've heard for the past decade or so, to basically every single adult human in the world being exposed and invested to Bitcoin in some way. I think we're very quickly entering that. Okay. the most investors in the world currently are invested in Bitcoin more than ever, right? There are more Bitcoin holders now than there were 5 years ago. And I think in 5 years, you're not going to be early anymore. But as I just highlighted, with a 2% allocation recommendation from BlackRock, keep in mind, we're nowhere near a 2% allocation yet. That's just their recommendation. But if we actually reach a 2% allocation, if we actually reach maybe, you know, in just the next few years, a $1 million Bitcoin, that's still relatively early for the actual addressable market that Bitcoin can accommodate and can slurp in. And really, I mean, you know, if you guys are familiar with like psychology and human psychology, let's say that a 3,000 pound polar bear or whatever was right in front of you. And it was going to, you know, it stood up on its hind legs and you looked up and you knew you were either going to get destroyed or you would either fight it or you would run away, the fight or flight response. You have two options. You either try and fight it and get completely demolished and turn into a soupy goo of bone and broth, or you run as fast as you can. And also, I mean, let's be fair, also most likely you would get mauled because polar bears actually can run really fast. But those are the two options, the fight or flight response. And if you're an investor or not an investor yet in this market, I personally think that your fight or flight response should be like lighting up right now, basically saying, wow, something clicks, you understand this opportunity, and you need to take action. You need to have a sense of urgency. The most money that I've ever made in my life were because I recognized, oh, wow, this is a crazy opportunity. I'm not going to wait a day. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what I need to do to get exposure to it or to buy it or whatever it is. I need to do it now. Okay. And very often in those moments, every day that you wait ends up costing you exponentially more in the future. So having that sense of urgency can benefit you massively. And I think that very quickly, and again, it also even ties into the concept of FOMO. FOMO usually just has a negative connotation that, you know, you pile into it and then it all goes crashing down eventually. But personally, long gone are the days of Bitcoin appreciating, you know, a couple 1,000% per cycle. However, also long gone are the days, most likely, of Bitcoin dropping as big. Basically, Bitcoin won't go up percentage as much as it did in the past, but it also won't go down as much percentage in the past because it's becoming less and less volatile, more and more stable as more and more money flows into it. It becomes harder and harder to, you know, swing the price. I just personally think that this is one of those moments that you're going to be looking back on. Okay. And I've been saying this quite literally. I've done iterations of what I'm saying right now for quite literally about 8 years now. But most recently, I remember back at the beginning of January, I was doing videos in my garage, sitting on a golf cart saying, nobody's bullish enough. We're about to go up and up and up. And this is when Bitcoin was $20,000. And if you read the comments, absolutely there were people saying like, yeah, no, I hope you're right and stuff like that. But there were plenty of comments saying delusional. We're going back to 10K. We're going back to 5K. We're going back to 3K. Those people are literally like scrambling like little mice right now, trying to either get in or, I mean, who knows? There's so many different people that were saying that. So who knows what each individual person was doing. But the point is, those people were wrong. I'm talking about when price was back here. Here we are up here. I mean, what is this? About a 300% gain since then. Back here, people were saying it was too late. There are still people right now saying it's too late. And I'm here to tell you, somehow, you are still relatively early. And if you buy Bitcoin, you get exposure to this market, and you have at least a 3 to 4 year time horizon of where you are going to stay invested for at least 3 to 4 years, then historically, not only have you never lost taking that bet, but you have always ended up making a lot of money. You just have to stop being a baby, really. I mean, that's all it boils down to. Stop being a baby and listening to dumb people on the internet that are just consistently wrong about crypto and Bitcoin, okay? You can listen to people that are right consistently, or you can listen to people that are wrong. And if you want to lose money, then listen to the people that are wrong. It's literally that black and white. Now, as well, I'm really curious on the daily chart if we're, I mean, again, we could. Today could be the day we've set that highest daily close, which I personally think could help propel this market. We've already gotten a back test of the 21. With the demand coming into this market and with the buying pressure, again, I think dips are going to be less and less severe and less frequent. The DXY is still bouncing. The last like 5 days it's been bouncing, yet Bitcoin still looks really good. What is going to slow down Bitcoin? I honestly don't know. But as long as there's just buying pressure, and especially with MicroStrategy being added to the indexes, again, that could be consistent flows into MicroStrategy, which then they would rotate into buying more Bitcoin. Further, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the price, I think, is at $100,000. It sounds crazy saying this, but I think Bitcoin at $100,000 is still pretty cheap. And I don't know if a lot of people would have been saying that a couple years ago, but with the current setup we have, it's so hard not to be extremely bullish. And get signed up with Femix or BITUNIX below if you'd like to buy cryptos or trade. And without any further ado, that's it for me.